Hello, this is Catherine Missel, and this is the Time Bender's Toolbox podcast. Welcome back. In today's session, I want to ask you a question. Can you change your past? Let me help you unravel that. Let me help you explore that. A better way to pose this question might be, what is your past outside of your perception of it from where you are right now? Think about what your past represents to you. How you think about your past is really about your emotional record of it, your memory based on the emotional resonance of it, whatever the continuing emotional imprint is on your present. So chances are, if you have experienced an event in the past that was highly emotionally charged, anytime you feel something close to that emotion now, you are brought right back to the moment of the highly charged event where the similar emotion first occurred. So in your present experience, you could say you are still exploring the trigger of this emotion. In other words, you're not done with it. There is some polarity, some duality, some contrast of being that you are still trying to decide between. You're still exploring. Some lesson hasn't been integrated yet. You feel this emotion or anything in this particular, let's just say, bandwidth or spectrum of energy that matches this resonance of the emotion just as strongly as you did yesterday or last year or 10 years ago, whenever that event that triggered this emotional imprint in your past occurred. In other words, your past is your present. It is your now in as much as it is still holding emotional resonance for you. This is just one way of beginning to understand that there is no past or future. They are simply different expressions of your now, of your present. There are only now moments stringing together and existing simultaneously. Your past is just a now moment where you are continuing to explore and invest in the emotional imprint of choices that you are still making. The strong resonance or memory of something you experienced as your past is staying strong because of your ability to fund it, to invest it with your observation, your attention, your focus, and your sustained emotional reaction to it. The past is just really a point of perspective in your now, rather than a point in the continuum of time, because that really is an illusion. That linear construct or continuum of time is just a way the mind, which is a fragment of consciousness, seeks and strives to create order. The memory of the past also stays strong when you are continuing to explore all of the choices you could have made, the things you might have done. You are creating many offshoot timelines when you do this, where you are funding different versions of yourself, pursuing all of the other choices you created in your mind, all the other ways that could have been, all the other decisions you could have made, all the different ways you could have gone. This is siphoning off precious creative energy of your now, where you are wanting to pursue, let's just say, the God choices, where you are actively making decisions that are in alignment with your highest good, your highest and best and most desired timeline and way of being. That's also in the alignment with the highest good of all and with the least amount of resistance for all involved. This is truly the God choice. So how do you begin to clean this up? How do you collapse all those quote-unquote past timelines that keep you exploring polarity and then shift to fund or concentrate your energy in the now, where you are pursuing your God choices intentionally? And you can sit yourself down and write down all the ways you are fragmenting your energy by thinking about, let's just say, a past event. Going through and thinking about what is my state of being right now that maybe I don't like very much? And what is the emotion that is punctuating this timeline to create this state of being? If you think of consciousness and the greater field of the all that is as just the pure field of consciousness from which everything is derived, and everything, including you, your mind, and constructs of time, are all just fragments of that consciousness. And anytime we are creating a sense of order by, let's just say, punctuating an event in the entire field of consciousness, creating a fragment of consciousness, an expression, a mechanism, a measurement of consciousness, and let's just say it's time, it's you, it's the pen you're holding. These are all different expressions of consciousness. And we are punctuating the entire energy matrix of the all that is, the field of consciousness, with these different constructs created by events. And when you think about the entirety of your consciousness, meaning you as just an expression, a thread of the entire field of consciousness, when you think about the timelines that you are holding, the ways of being that you are exploring, do you feel like you have a choice in what that is? Do you feel like you have a choice in how you express through your unique individuated thread of consciousness how to experience consciousness? Well, you do. Start thinking about an event that maybe created an emotion that you're holding, that is creating an overall state of being that you don't like very much. Feel it. And feel it from a sense of reviewing it rather than re-traumatizing yourself by reliving it. Go into the vantage point of your higher self. Call your higher self forth or shift into that vantage point of awareness. This will make it easier for you to review something that created a way of being or a state of being that you are now that you don't really like very much. And it prevents you when you're in the higher self vantage point or your higher self avatar of awareness. You can be the objective observer of it and not re-traumatize yourself from it. And if you don't have the event that created, let's just say, this way of being, this emotional state that you keep re-inhabiting, go to the emotion. If you were to distill your way of being now that you don't like very much, if you were to distill that down to its essence, what's the emotion? What choices have you been making because of this emotion? What is the state of being that you are occupying because of this emotion? And what is staying in this timeline or state of being keeping you from? In other words, from this contrast, can you now better see what is your highest timeline, your ideal expression of you and state of being? And what is it that you are doing, feeling, thinking? How are you behaving that is keeping you right now in contrast from that? This is where you can begin to start looking at and taking inventory of all of these things that are keeping you in the contrast of what you truly want. Write it down. When we write it down, we take it out of the fourth dimension of the mental matter and put it in the second dimensional plane on a piece of paper, written in our own hand, seeing it written in our own hand, and actually going through the process of writing it down creates a dimensional shift. And anytime we create a dimensional shift, and that means, yes, taking something out of the mind and putting it down on paper, you are creating a dimensional shift. You are undergoing a different perception of awareness. You are moving into a different perspective and way of viewing yourself, which changes your identity just by writing something down. And then when you look at what you've written and you are sitting with it, not reliving it, but reviewing it and objectively observing how these things, these behaviors, these thoughts, these feelings, these opinions, these attitudes are hurting you now and keeping you from your highest and most desired timeline. Take a deep breath in and say out loud, I am unhooking from any and all timelines where I have already explored and am continuing to explore polarity and duality around blank. meaning the event or experience, or the emotional imprint, the way of being, the feelings, the attitudes, and the opinions. What is the overall state of being? And you can state very concisely. Are you in a state of being of poverty? Are you in a state of being of unworthiness, feeling unlovable? Maybe not in your optimum way of feeling health and well-being. Whatever that is, there are no limits here to what you can unhook from, where you are playing with polarity and duality that is no longer serving you. And once you say this, you will feel another shift. And take it a little further and say, I am so grateful for where I am and for making the God choice in all events and experiences now and going forward. This creates a powerful perception shift. This creates less of a dense feeling in the body where you're holding all of that polarity, duality, and contrast. You've loosened and let some of that go. You've released it. You'll notice a shift in your perception of the present. You'll probably have a few bouts of deja vu. This is normal. You are experiencing a blip in the time matrix, the construct of consciousness that we know of time. So this can feel like a deja vu. And you'll be gifted with many more opportunities as you make this shift and you feel it in the present. You'll be gifted with many more opportunities to make the God choice. When those familiar emotions that maybe were creating an identity for you start to creep up again, those that triggered you before, because they created the driving force of how you experienced you, aka your state of being, aka how you were perceiving your past. And if you are changing you in the present, you are changing the entire construct that views past from in the first place. If you change your perception in the present, you are changing the identity of yourself. So you will always view your past differently. You will always view your experience differently because you are viewing your present differently. You experience you differently as you continue to make choices for your highest good and for the highest good of all, with the least amount of resistance for all involved. I always add this caveat to whenever I am collapsing timelines and accessing my highest and best timelines, that I'm making this choice for the highest good of all and with the least amount of resistance for all involved. This is truly 5D technology when we create an ask or an intention in this way. And so when you experience or perceive you differently as a result of the positive shift in your choices, naturally, your perception of the past you changes along with it. Because there is no longer past you, or what you identified before as the past you, the memories that you had that can be a re-triggering event will naturally fall away. Because there is no longer past you, the one that is still exploring all the polarity, there's only present you, exploring God choices in the now that are aligned with funding the highest and best expression of you, the ideal of you, via the God choices you are making. In other words, the emotional imprint and memory of your past, quote unquote, fades and dissolves because your energy is no longer funding it. And in essence, you have changed your past. Because what is our past outside of our perception of it in the now? In fact, there are many things, when we talk about shifting our past in this way, and the natural memory of you in the past fades when your identity of you in the present changes. It ends up that there are many things you don't remember from your past, simply because you've made God choices that have made the lesson of the experience you needed to go through, the lesson you needed to download, complete. So how do you feel this knowledge can help you? You don't have to just take my word for this, that you can change your past. Use the tool that I've given you here and play with it yourself. Play with time and see what experiences unfold for you, what perception shifting identities you can move into, what different vantage points of your awareness as you being a thread of the overall, the greater field of consciousness is here to express itself in greater ways through making the God choices. Play with this. Have fun with this. And I hope this energy finds you well. And I want to wish you so much love and peace. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.